Welcome back to the Mod Ventures YouTube series, Entrepreneurship Uncovered, a series where we interview a variety of up-and-coming and experienced business owners to hear their stories and draw wisdom from their experiences.
I think that being a mother has made me a much more confident maker and artist, and have the ability to step into these things that I wanted to do. Right. I don't think I would have had the confidence to start a business if it hadn't been for this extra motivator and life-changing little human.
Hi, welcome back to Mod Ventures YouTube channel, where we have another Entrepreneurship Uncovered episode for you. If you're new here, I am Gabby. Today we're here with Joanna, and I can't wait to hear your story. Tell us all about yourself.
Ooh, that's a big question.
About your business.
My name's Joanna. I run a business named after myself, Joanna Hennigan Pottery. I make pottery here in Tucson. I sell it on Etsy and locally. I'm just starting to get into the markets.
You said that you're new to the market. How long have you been doing pottery?
That's a little bit of a loaded question. My first class was in college, so about 7 or 8 years ago is when I first learned. I took some time off after I graduated college because I got pregnant and had a baby and stayed at home with her for about 3 years. It's been 6 months since I got back into pottery.
Been doing it for quite some time now, actually. Lots of experience doing your pottery. So tell us a little bit about what makes you different in this marketplace.
I've really been enjoying making things with a local flavor, with saguaros and kind of a desert theme. I really enjoy just experimenting with unique shapes and decorations.
Yeah, well, cool. Yeah. Well, you have a mug with you, and this is one of them. One of the ones that you have on your Etsy shop, right?
It is. Well, I don't have any on my Etsy shop right now because I'm preparing for my first local market, actually.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, so that's going to be at the MSA Annex on August 30th.
You also have a version of this type of planter.
Making some planters. Everything I make, any of the vessels that I make, mugs and planters especially right now, I throw on a pottery wheel. This is all thrown in one piece, and then I put some drainage holes down at the bottom and decorate it by hand to give it a little...
It's gorgeous.
Little detail work here. So right now, like I said, I'm focusing on mugs and planters, but I'm working on some little projects, and this is one of them. It's a little pendant, all handmade. It's unglazed, and I keep it unglazed because it can absorb liquid. I have, I think, 2 drops of essential oils on here.
So that's a really nice option for those people who don't want to wear perfume, where they can just put a couple of drops of essential oils or favorite lavender or whatever, and just drag it around with them everywhere, right? But it's beautiful. So tell us what has happened in the last 6 months with your business.
So 6 months ago, I started making pottery again. It was a really kind of long process to get to that point. I used crowdfunding.
Nice.
And it was a bit of a learning curve to get back into it, just like muscle memory and everything. It took a little while to kick back in. My crowdfunding campaign was to support 6 months in the studio. In the back of my mind, I wanted this to be a business. I want this to be sustainable. But for right now, I don't know how much success I'll be able to have. I had a lot of doubts as far as how successful I would be just making pottery again. I think 2 months in, I had fulfilled all the perks, so I gave mugs and things back to the people who participated in my crowdfunding. And after I was done with that, I started thinking about, okay, what's next? The first logical step was to start an Etsy shop. I haven't sold that much on it, but at the same time, it's been more successful than I expected. It's been a great way for me to start selling without having to invest quite as much time and effort into physical locations.
Yeah. That's so cool that you use crowdfunding. I don't know of any other makers that are doing that. How did you know to do that?
I felt like I was out of options at a certain point. I was dreaming of trying to get back to pottery for the whole 3 years that I wasn't making. I tried to start making handmade cards and selling them, or drawings or paintings or other things I had studied in art school. It wasn't clicking with me. It just wasn't the passion that I had. So I started thinking about, okay, how can I get to the pottery studio? And the biggest challenge that kept coming up was money. And so I took the time to write out a plan. How much would I have to save? What would it take? And just every time I would sit down with my husband and go, when can this happen? It just felt longer and longer and longer, and it just didn't work. And so at a certain point, I went, wait a second, what if I believed in myself enough that I can ask for money from people even before I'm making a product? And that was super scary.
Yeah.
My sister-in-law has a lot of marketing experience, so I talked to her. There's a Mother Maker Facebook group that I was on that I was like asking advice and finding people who knew a little bit about crowdfunding and how to run it.
Awesome.
And I used social media to get the word out there, and I got to fully funded way faster than I expected.
That's a really cool story. You're a young mother as well.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Yeah.
And how do you find time to do your passion as well as your family?
Well, it did take time. The first couple of years, I kept thinking about how I could make time, but I wanted to prioritize being at home with my daughter. It took a lot of time until I felt confident in my role as a mother. And the other thing that happened was my husband became a firefighter. And so his schedule opened up to where he's now home for larger chunks of the time. And so he can take over and be with her while I go to the studio.
That's really cool.
I was just talking to my husband about this earlier today, actually, and realizing that I think that being a mother has made me a much more confident maker and artist, and have the ability to step into these things that I wanted to do. Right. I don't think I would have had the confidence to start a business if it hadn't been for this extra motivator and life-changing little human wanting to be home with her, but also be a potter has really forced me to learn how to balance and step forward even when I'm not confident, but also be more confident in the things that I want.
Well, I mean, you brought this beautiful baby into the world. I mean, how much more, amazing can your body be, right?
Yeah.
You're very, very capable. And so it's so awesome that you've been able to step into. I think that's what motherhood does for women. It really does increase their confidence in what you're able to accomplish. With all of that added confidence, I'm sure there's been some added challenges to match that confidence. So tell us a little bit about some of the challenges that you've had to go through.
Well, I talked a little bit about the money was a big challenge,
Yeah.
But I'd say the other thing, which is a challenge for all of us, is mindset. Realizing that I can be a successful and present mother and also pursue this for myself, and that pursuing pottery and wanting to make money and be a successful business doesn't take away from my ability to be a successful homemaker and to be able to do both. The other thing that goes along with mindset is I'm able to see my potential, and it's really hard for me to be content where I'm at now when I want to wait until I've achieved my potential to put myself out there. Yeah. And so I think the biggest challenge, and the challenge that so many of us face, is we want to wait until we're ready, and we want to wait until we've got it together, or I'm making the perfect product, or whatever it may be, to take those first steps. And I've had to fight that every step of the way to go, no, I'm going to put myself out there even if I'm not 100% proud of this, or my perfectionism isn't fully satisfied. I'm gonna just keep going.
I think what I found as being a mom and business owner is that it's actually been a really great example to my daughter or daughters as well. It has actually helped their confidence as well. So I think you're being such a great example to your daughter by pursuing your passions. These things are important too, in that you don't have to give up everything in order to be a mom. You're just starting, basically you're 6 months in. What advice would you give for other people who are wanting to get started and are just trying to figure out how to really be ready?
There's two things I'd say. Recognize, like you say, like I'm just starting out right now, but the actual start of this journey happened 10 years ago and 5 years ago and 3 years ago. Yeah. And so recognizing that no matter where you're at in your journey, you can make progress towards where you want to get. So I think writing down what goal you have, making an action step plan where you go, okay, what small, tiny, seemingly insignificant step can I make today or this week or this month that can help me towards that? Because it is a journey. And if you just wait until you're ready and you wait until you have $10,000 to invest, or you have the perfect product, it's never going to happen because you have to take those tiny steps to get there. You don't have to get the steps perfectly in order. I think that there's very little that you can do to sabotage yourself as long as you're moving forward.
Wow, that's great advice. Really appreciate that. Thank you so much for joining us today. I think that was just some really great advice for all of us. And how can we find you?
Well, we did already say you can show up at the market August 30th, but I primarily show up on Instagram at joanna.hennigan. You can also find me on Etsy at etsy.com/shop/Joanna Hennigan.
I'm looking forward to seeing more from you.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
We do hope that you enjoyed this episode of Entrepreneurship Uncovered. Make sure that you're subscribed to our channel so you don't miss any new videos published every Monday and Thursday.